It's day 40. Day 40. It seems like it's been a long time, and yet it seems like now here we are, over, home. And I just wanted to figure out how to recap and how to end this. And I just thought maybe one of the first things you would ask in this whole story is, how is Eric today? 10 years later, and he still has some central nervous system issues, some nerve issues. He called his right leg his dumb leg. It was numb and quite a bit smaller when you looked at the videos of his left leg. And it was, he didn't feel it. It was neuropathy, and yet there could be some pain with that. And so I think he still deals with a little bit of that. He had surgery, bulging discs in his back, perhaps due to that whole thing and all of the damage that it did to just not being able to feel, and yet pain and sleeping strangely. But I want to, and I think things like weighted blankets and compression socks and the summer sun are the best things for him. He does feel the weather. He's told me he's felt the dark, cold winters are really hard, and the saving grace is wrestling. He is a wrestling coach assistant for the Watertown Mayor Royals, where he wrestled. He has a passion for those young men, and he just wants to instill in them determination and, as Dan Gable said, that rare alloy called guts. It helped him. I think that wrestling saved him in Hawaii. He knew how to fight. He knew how to not get pinned. And even though he could see the lights at the ceiling, he could get himself out of that. Rat lungworm took him down, but it didn't take him out. And I think just his upbringing in wrestling, having that passion since he was a little boy, and good coaches and great coaches, just was a life-saving. And I think it's his lifeline now, because wrestling requires a lot of proprioceptive input into your body, lots of rolling and tumbling and contact and on the mat, and he's right down there as much as he can be, and weightlifting, and all of that really does help his central nervous system and his muscle pain and some of that chronic pain. And so wrestling was a lifesaver then, and it is a lifesaver now. He wrote a little bit. Well, let me just say that in March of 2012, he got on Caringbridge and wrote his own post. And this is what it said back in March of 2012. After all this thinking I have time for, it's still a lot, I have one thing going through my head. I wonder how things would be if I never would have had this disease at all. I think about how I would have had a blast in Hawaii for 5 or 6 months, living the dream, doing fun things with amazing people. My favorite thing about that would be being normal in every way that I'm not normal now. It sucks not to run or to work out like I used to be capable of, but everyone says all in good time. No offense, but that's pretty easy to say. I know there's nothing I can do about it now, and that I've come a long way, but I'm to the point of thinking, well, what if I could have come a long way in a different way? But when I think about if I'm glad that whole thing happened, I think about all the people it helped. This disease may have put a lasting impression on me that I'm still unsure will ever be the same. But I know I've done the same thing to so many people I know and love, and the same can be said about the impact they've had on me. I wouldn't be able to get so many rides from amazing people that I never see often. I wouldn't get so many visitors that love to spend their time making me feel better. If I didn't go through this, my mom wouldn't have tested her faith in a way I know she needed to. I wouldn't have such amazing doctors and nurses to be amazed by their work and true passion for helping others. And most of all, at least at this stage in my journey, the physical therapists that have to put up with my sarcastic remarks and goofy personality. I know without their patience and willingness to push me, I wouldn't be in the wonderful condition I am. Even still, it's hard to weigh the pros and cons of each situation, and I know I'd still be a happy person if this never happened. But maybe a bum right leg for the rest of my life is worth the great things I saw. I'll leave with this. I remember sitting in the hospital bed one day, and my mom told me that I've really been an inspiration on a lot of people for sticking through this. And then she told me that Mr. Dave Nace had decided to go back to church because of what's been happening to me. And after she said that, I remember saying, well, that alone has made this whole thing worth it. Eric. And then in May of 2012, 2 months after he wrote that, he was on the mound at Hollywood pitching. Aaron Lynch, his catcher, Joe Reinert on first, like old times. Chopper Lammers putting together a little game and a little food at the Hollywood store, and lots of people came out, and Eric pitched. In April of 2013, Monsters Inside Me, Animal Planet's Monsters Inside Me came out, and we reenacted the story. And if you'd like to see it, it's Animal Planet, Monsters Inside Me, Season 4, Episode 1, aired first September 30th, 2012, or 2013, I think. And yeah, it tells a little bit more about the disease of rat lungworm. On May 2014, he graduated from the University of Minnesota as a plant science major. And that same year, the U of M, he became a paid student manager with the U of M women's softball team. And they made it that year to super regionals, and he's got one of those super regional rings to show. In 2014, this is what he wrote on Caring Bridge. This is the first time I've written in a long time, but felt the need to talk about something that has been truly blessed for me in my life, a blessing for me in my life. I am a volunteer manager for the University of Minnesota softball team, and I just wanted to write about how much I appreciate them. They are the most appreciative people I've ever been around. They always say thank you to me when I throw batting practice. Many of them have come up personally and thanked me for helping. It's an amazing feeling knowing that I'm appreciated. They think they are lucky to have me helping out, but in reality, I couldn't be more blessed to be doing what I'm doing. With all the things I've gone through, the fact that I can even throw batting practice is to them is a miracle. The girls are so fun, nice, authentic, motivated. They are having a great season, and knowing them on a personal level, it's no surprise that they are doing so well. I feel like I'm more of a friend to them than a manager. They are interested in my story, and I am happy to tell them. It means a lot that they all care as much as they do. Now that I have gone through all of the difficult parts of recovery from this disease, I can honestly say that I am happy that I got this disease. If I never got rat lungworm, I would never have gone to the University of Minnesota. I would have never met my great roommates or all of the friends I've gained on the softball team. Everything happens for a reason, and every day I'm here, I understand what the reason is. If you would have told me 2 years ago that I would be going to the U of M and be a manager of the softball team, I would have laughed, but that's how life works sometimes. I wouldn't have it any other way. Thank you, Gophers. Love you guys. And then in 2016, I went back to Hawaii. I flew back to say thank you and to tell the Hawaiians what they did. They each did some little things and some bigger things and individual things, and they didn't know the whole story. They didn't really know whatever happened to Eric after we flew out, and I wanted to tell them that they were part of the recovery, and they were part of the reason that Eric was doing as well as he was. And I wanted them to know what they did. and how appreciated it was. And so I flew there, and I asked Eric, I said, Eric, they're going to ask me how you're doing. And so in 2016, this is what he wrote to the Hawaiians. First off, I'd like to express my gratitude and thanks to everyone in Hawaii who helped me get through this extremely challenging part of my life. So thank you to the doctors, nurses, staff, and everyone who selflessly offered to help my mom and I. It will be 5 years in November since I was admitted to Hilo Medical Center. A lot has changed since then. As I am assuming you all know what happened to me and the crazy journey my body went through, I will summarize those areas, but try to go into more detail about how those physical changes affected my mental health as well. The damage that the parasites did to my central nervous system is something I have completely accepted in my life. I no longer get frustrated when I have to check my balance to make sure I don't fall over. It happens less often, and sometimes I chuckle when it happens because it's a very odd side effect. For years, I struggled to get back to what I considered to be normal, but eventually I discovered that I have a new normal now, and I've embraced it. It has not been easy. I was forming into a new person while also growing up in my 20s, finding my way through life. Currently, I'm doing very, very well physically and mentally. I'm able to work out nearly every day as I work as a landscaper. I coach wrestling in winter, and I'm able to wrestle with the athletes, which is also a great workout. I am very fortunate that I am able to wrestle with my athletes. I lost a lot of athletic ability and coordination for other sports, such as baseball and softball, but I've been able to maintain, perhaps increase, my wrestling ability. Mentally, I am at peace. I know not everything is perfect with my nerves and nervous system, but those things I cannot control. I have learned a lot about life having to come to terms with my situation, but I wouldn't want it any other way. Many times I'm asked if I would have wished I'd never had rat lungworm disease. I answer no. I consider it to be one of my greatest accomplishments. Not that I survived a rare parasitic disease, but that I found peace and happiness in the aftermath, having to rediscover who I am. Mahalo and aloha, Eric. So he's doing okay, and I think if you see him at the wrestling matches or out and about, you should really ask him, how are you doing? How are you really doing? Because I'm his mom, and I know that he struggles with some things, and he tries not to be a downer or be a complainer, and he's not. But I think it would be nice if he could tell and share with someone else. Maybe that's actually going through a struggle as well. But what do I say? Because this really did, and as Eric put it, tested my faith in a good way, and something that I needed and didn't know I needed to be sent into this storm. My advice is simple. I don't really have advice, but I do say get with God and get real. Get real. And when things are confusing and when you're struggling with doubts or no faith or anger, resentment, bitterness, fear, I say get real. Get real with God. He can take it. And I say a lot of times, puke it out. Just puke it out. God is not offended. God is not put off or think that's gross. He listens. He understands. And after you have puked it out, and when you're through, he takes a towel and he begins to clean up the mess. You just need to stick around long enough with him to hear what he has to say to you. You won't get all your answers to why, but I do believe if you stick around long enough and have it out with him and listen, you will find peace of the unknowing. That's what I call it, the peace of the unknowing. Not knowing, and yet a peace about it that you don't need to know the answers to why. That there's a peace that surpasses all understanding, and you don't get it all, but you're okay with that. And that takes time and puking and listening. And my last bit of advice is really just from St. Paul, 2 Timothy 4:7. Fight the good fight. Finish the race. Keep the faith. Thank you guys for being here. Mahalo, aloha. Thank you.